Today we're doing Eureka Math Module 4, Lesson 29, and this is the last lesson that will be included on your weekly check-in tomorrow. Don't forget, we're going back to last week. We're going to do 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 on this week's check-in. Okay, and you'll get back those 5 exit tickets today in your Panda folder so that you can study and review and remind yourself what you need to know. Today's learning goal, as I said, I rewrote it time and time again because I was trying to make it make sense. Basically, today what you're going to need to be able to do is use what you know about place value to help you divide a decimal by a tenth, a hundredth, or a thousandth. Okay? Very good. I want us to review what we know about unit form. So we have a number, 6.2. Go ahead and write 6.2 is equal to. 6.2 is equal to how many tenths? Well, if I don't look at the decimal point, I have 62, and I see that the 2 is in the what's place? Because 6 wholes, 6 ones, is equal to how many tenths? 60, and then I have 2 more tenths, right? So 6.2 is equal to how many tenths? 62 tenths, write that down. What if I want to know how many hundredths that's equal to? Well, I can think to myself, is this the same thing as 6.20? Right? So is 6.2 equal to 6.20? So that will help me figure out how many hundredths are in 6.2. How many hundredths are in 6.2?
620.
620. Good. Okay. See if you can test yourself. Try this one. 12 is equal to how many hundredths and equal to how many tenths? Write it down in your notebook. When we write this problem, 7 divided by 0.1. Let's say it in word form. It's 7 divided by, how do I say 0.1 in word form? Everyone? 1/10. So instead of using a decimal, how might I write this expression using a fraction? Well, it could be 7, that's still a whole number, divided by, how do I write 1/10 instead of 0.1? Well, I just do 1/10. Do you guys agree? Write it down. Now, all the way back in lesson 25, we discovered that when I have a whole number divided by a fraction, I'm finding out how many of those fraction pieces will fit inside the whole number, right? So we can think to ourselves for this problem, we know how to solve this. We know that how many tenths are there in one whole? 10 tenths. But this problem is really asking me, how many tenths are there in 7 wholes, right? So how many tenths are there then in 7 wholes? 70. So what's the answer to 7 divided by 1/10? 70. So then what's the answer to 7 divided by 1/10? 70. So again, we need to remember that we're just asking how many tenths fit inside the whole. And in order to do that, we think to ourselves, how many tenths fit inside one whole, and then how many tenths fit in the number of holes that we have. Make sense? Right? Good notes. Now, I have 7.4, okay, divided by 1/10. We still know that this 1/10 means 1/10, okay? But this number is a little bit different. How is 7.4 different than our previous problem? Well, our previous problem had a whole number part, but this is a whole number part and a decimal part, right? We can think of 7.4 as 7 ones and 4 tenths, right? So we can think to ourselves, okay, well, this is kind of like 7 ones divided by 1/10, and then also 4 tenths divided by 1/10. So we can, remember, when we're dividing by a fraction, we're asking how many of these fractions fit inside these parts, okay? So let's take it step by step. How many tenths are there in one whole? Everyone?
10.
There are 10 tenths in one whole. But how many holes do we have here? 7. So how many tenths fit inside 7 holes? 70, okay. How many tenths fit inside 4 tenths? Everyone, how many tenths fit inside 4 tenths? There are how many tenths in 4 tenths? 4. So if we know that there's 70 tenths in 7 ones and 4 tenths in 4 tenths, sounds so funny, but it's true, right? How many tenths are there in 7.4?
74.
So therefore there are 74 tenths in 7.4. So let me ask you a question. What's 7.4 divided by 0.1?
74.
Equals 74. This question right here is asking us how many hundredths fit into 7? Well, how many hundredths fit into one whole? How many hundredths fit into one whole? Okay, but here we have 7 holes. So how many hundredths fit into 7 holes? So 7 divided by 0.01 is equal to 700. Here we have 7.4 divided by 100th, 0.01, right? So we're asking how many hundredths fit into 7.4. Well, we already know how many hundredths fit into 7, right? The only part we have to figure out is we have 4 extra tenths. How many hundredths fit into 4 tenths? How many? 40. So, let me ask you a question. Then, if we know that there are 700 hundredths in 7 holes and 40 hundredths in 4 tenths, what is the answer to 7.4 divided by 0.01? Everyone? Good. Okay. Last but not least, oh my gosh, here we have 7.49. What's the difference between this hole and this hole? We've added 9 what's? Okay. So we already know that there's 700 sevenths in 7 holes. There are 40 hundredths in 4 tenths. Now we just have to figure out how many hundredths there are in 9 hundredths. How many hundredths are there, everyone, in 9 hundredths? So, therefore, 7.49 divided by 0.01 equals 749. Very good. So, let me ask you some questions then. Okay, that's going to be small. That's fine. So, how many hundredths are there in 7 then? 700. Hundredths in 7. How many hundredths are there in 7.4? And how many hundredths are there in 7.49? Very good. Okay, so we can see how this is the same as dividing a fraction by a fraction, but we change it into decimals to help us think about it in a different way.